I want to tell you about a funeral. My father's funeral. Not the ceremony was beautiful, the way military funerals are beautiful, the specific, formal beauty of a nation honoring one of the people who served it. The flag. The honor guard. The rifle salute. The bugler. The specific, heartbreaking precision of 21 guns fired in sequence by soldiers who perform this ceremony with complete seriousness because the person they are honoring deserves complete seriousness. My father was buried at Arlington National Cemetery on a Tuesday morning in October. I was standing at the graveside in my dress uniform. Full dress. Every decoration I had earned. The uniform of a lieutenant colonel, United States Army, with the specific insignia of the Defense Intelligence Agency on my lapel. The ceremony ended. People came to express their condolences. My father's former colleagues. His friends from 30 years of service. Family members who had driven from 3 states. And my brother. My brother Marcus was standing at the edge of the crowd. He was wearing a suit. He had come from Chicago where he worked as a mid-level manager at a financial services firm. He had taken 2 days off work for the funeral. He looked at my uniform. He looked at the insignia. He looked at the decorations on my chest. Then he said something that I want to tell you verbatim because the exact words matter. He said, "You know what? I am glad Dad is not here to see what you became." I looked at him. "A spy," he said. "That is what you are. You work for people who lie for a living and you call it service. Dad was real Army. What you do is not the same thing." He straightened his jacket. "You are a disgrace to what he stood for," he said. And then he walked away. To the reception. To the food and the family and the people who had gathered to honor my father. And I stood at my father's grave in my dress uniform and I let what he had said land where it landed. I did not respond. Not because I did not have a response. Because I knew something Marcus did not know. And I understood, standing there, that what Marcus did not know would eventually resolve itself without anything I needed to say. The truth has a way of doing that. If you are given enough time. If you are new here, please subscribe right now and drop your country and local time in the comments. I read every single one. Now let me take you all the way back. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Victoria Marsh. United States Army. Defense Intelligence Agency. I am 41 years old. I will not tell you specifically what I do. The nature of intelligence work is that specificity is not available to me in a public context and I would not offer it if it were. What I will tell you is this. For 16 years I have been doing work that requires a level of security clearance that most people in this country do not know exists. Work that has, on specific occasions that I also cannot describe in detail, contributed to outcomes that have protected American lives and American interests in ways that the people whose lives were protected will never know about because the nature of the work is that those who benefit from it rarely know who did it. I know what I have done. The people I serve with know what I have done. The specific, small number of people in this government who are permitted to know what my unit does know what I have done. That is enough. It has always been enough. But I am getting ahead of myself. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, the younger of 2 children, in a family that was military in its foundation long before I understood what that meant. My father, Colonel James Marsh, United States Army, 30 years of service, was the kind of military officer who understood his service as a vocation rather than a career. He served because it was what he was built for. He was precise, principled, genuinely patriotic in the way of people who have thought carefully about what their country means and have decided it is worth protecting. He was also the kind of father who saw his children clearly and specifically, not as extensions of his ambitions but as people who had their own natures and their own paths and who deserved to be seen and supported in whatever those paths turned out to be. He saw me clearly. My brother Marcus he also loved. Completely. But Marcus was a different kind of challenge, a child who had the intelligence and the social ability to succeed and who had not, for reasons that probably require a therapist rather than a story to fully explain, developed the specific discipline that sustained success requires. He was smart. He was charming. He was also someone who found effort difficult when effort was not immediately rewarded. Marcus had left college after 2 years. He had worked a series of jobs with varying degrees of staying power. He had, by the time I commissioned, found his way into financial services in Chicago, where his social ability served him reasonably well in a sales-adjacent role. He was comfortable. Not successful in the way he had imagined himself being successful, but comfortable. I had commissioned at 22 from ROTC at the University of Virginia. Military intelligence. From the beginning, I had the specific combination of analytical aptitude and language facility that military intelligence selects for, and I had known from my sophomore year that this was the direction. My father was proud of me. He told me so. Not constantly, he was not a man who overcommunicated anything, but at the specific moments when it mattered, when I received a promotion or completed something significant, he would find me and he would say it directly, and it would land the way things land when they are said by the people whose opinion you most value. Marcus was less comfortable with my career. Not from the beginning, but increasingly over the years as my path and his diverged in specific, visible ways. As I promoted and he did not. As my work took me places he could not follow and gave me access to things he could not imagine. As my career became something that required explanation to civilians, not the simple narrative of a soldier, but the more complex narrative of someone doing something that could not be fully explained. He did not understand what I did. He decided that what he did not understand was not worth understanding. And when I stood at my father's grave in my dress uniform, he said what he said. The 3 years between the funeral and the day he walked into my office. I want to tell you about them specifically because the specificity is what gives the story its shape. Year 1 after the funeral, I was promoted to lieutenant colonel. The promotion ceremony was attended by the people I work with, a small group, as ceremonies in my world tend to be small, because the nature of what we do limits the number of people who can be present for the recognition of it. My mother attended. She sat in the front row and cried in the specific way she always cried at my promotions. Not from sadness but from the particular emotion of a parent watching a child become more than they imagined. Marcus did not attend. I had not invited him. Not as punishment. As practicality. The security requirements of the event made civilian attendance complicated, and I had not wanted to navigate the specific, awkward process of explaining to Marcus why he could not attend certain portions of what he could not understand. He called a week after the ceremony. He said congratulations in the way of someone who is trying and not quite reaching what they are trying for. I said thank you. We did not have a longer conversation. Year 2, I was assigned to a specific working group that I cannot describe in detail, but that involved coordination with allied intelligence services at a level that requires the kind of trust between agencies that takes years to build and that, when it works, produces results that prevent specific, terrible things from happening. I was the lead American representative on the working group. I spent 14 months in a role that was the most significant thing I had done in 16 years of service. I cannot tell you what we accomplished. I know what we accomplished. Year 2 was the year I understood most clearly why I do what I do. Year 3, Marcus's company began a government contracts division. This is the part of the story that converged the two lines. The financial services firm where Marcus worked had been expanding for years and had, in year 3, decided to pursue government contracts as a growth strategy. Specifically, contracts with federal agencies, including, in a development that I did not know about until it was already in motion, the Defense Intelligence Agency. A colleague told me. She mentioned, in passing, that a firm named Archer Financial Services was pursuing a contract consultation meeting with our procurement office and that the firm's regional director was named Marsh. I sat with that for a moment. Then I looked at the meeting schedule. There it was. Archer Financial Services. Government Contracts Division. Preliminary Consultation Meeting. Defense Intelligence Agency Headquarters. Main Conference Suite. The meeting was on a Thursday. Marcus was coming to the Pentagon. He did not know whose office was in the building he was coming to. He did not know whose name was on the door of the suite his meeting was scheduled outside of. I made a decision. I was going to be in my office when he arrived. Not to intercept the meeting, that was not mine to intercept. But to be present. To be visibly, professionally present in the building where I had spent 16 years doing the work that Marcus had called a disgrace at our father's grave. I scheduled no external meetings for Thursday. I put on my dress uniform. I waited. He arrived at 11:45. I know this because my assistant told me when he signed in at the security desk. She said, "Colonel Marsh, a Mr. Marcus Marsh has signed in for the 12 o'clock consultation meeting. He is in the waiting area." I said, "Thank you." I finished what I was reading. Then I walked out of my office. The waiting area outside the conference suite is a specific kind of space, not dramatic, not ostentatious, but the specific, quiet, serious architecture of a place where serious things happen. The insignia on the wall. The photographs. The specific evidence of an institution that has been doing consequential work for a very long time. Marcus was sitting in one of the chairs by the window. He was in a suit. A good suit. He had dressed for this meeting carefully, the way you dress when you are trying to make an impression in a room where impressions matter. He looked up when I walked into the waiting area. He saw me. He saw the uniform. He saw the insignia on my lapel. He saw the name placard I was wearing that said LTCV Marsh, DIA. He did not speak for a long time. I crossed the waiting area and I stood in front of him. I said, "Marcus." He said, "Victoria." Just our names. The weight of 3 years, of the funeral and the specific words he had said and the specific place he had said them, sat in the waiting area between us. I said, "I did not know you were coming until yesterday." He said, "I did not know you worked here." "I have worked here for 6 years," I said. He looked around the waiting area. At the insignia. At the photographs. At the specific, accumulated evidence of what the Defense Intelligence Agency is and what it does. He looked back at me. "What do you do here?" he said. I held his gaze. "I work," I said. 16 years of it. The same thing Dad did for 30. The same commitment. The same oath. A different application. He was quiet. "The things he said," I said. "At the funeral." The disgrace comment. He looked at the floor. "I said that," he said. "You did," I said. "I did not understand," he said. "I did not understand what you did." "No," I said. "You did not." "I still do not fully understand," he said. "Do I?" "No," I said. "Most people do not. That is the nature of it." He looked at me. "But it is real," he said. "What you do is real." "Yes," I said. "It is real." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Dad knew." "Yes," I said. "Dad always knew." "He was proud of you," Marcus said. "I know," I said. "He told me," Marcus said. "Multiple times. He said you were doing the most important work in the army even if nobody could ever know what it was." I held that. My father. Who had seen me clearly. Who had said the things that needed to be said. "Why did you not tell me that," I said, "instead of what you said at the funeral?" Marcus looked at the floor again. "Because," he said slowly, "I was angry. Not at you. At myself. At the specific fact of standing at Dad's funeral in a suit while you were standing there in that uniform with everything you had built and I." He stopped. "I had not built the same thing," he said. The honesty of it landed in the waiting area. Not between us like a weapon. Like something that had needed to be said for a long time and had finally found the space. "Marcus," I said. "What you have built is yours. The path you took is yours. I am not measuring you against myself and I never have been. Dad was not measuring you against me. He was proud of both of us. In different ways. For different things. He looked up. Do you believe that? He said. Yes, I said. I believe it completely. He nodded slowly. I owe you an apology, he said. For what I said. At the grave. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong when I said it, and I have known it every day since. I know, I said. Can you? Yes, I said. Before he finished the question. He looked at me. I forgive you, I said. I forgave you a long time ago. I was waiting for you to find your way to the apology. He was quiet. That is very like Dad, he said finally. I know, I said. I learned it from him. His meeting proceeded. I was not part of it, it was not my meeting. He met with the procurement team. I understand the meeting went well enough that further discussions were scheduled. Before he left the building, he found me in my office. He knocked on the open door. I looked up. He was holding his jacket over his arm. The way you hold a jacket when the meeting is over and you are not performing for anyone anymore. He said, Can I ask you something? I said, yes. He said, the work you do. The part you cannot tell me about. Are you proud of it? I looked at my brother. At the 44-year-old man who had stood at our father's grave and called me a disgrace. At the same man who was now standing in the doorway of my Pentagon office asking me the question our father would have asked. Yes, I said. I am profoundly proud of it. He nodded. Good, he said. He looked at the office for a moment. At the photographs on the wall that I could not explain to him. At the files on my desk that he could not read. At the specific, accumulated evidence of 16 years of work that most people will never see and that I will carry in a specific, private way for the rest of my life. Dad was right about you, he said. Dad was right about a lot of things, I said. Yes, he said. He was. He put his jacket on. He turned to leave. Then he stopped. He turned back. He stood in the doorway of my office and he looked at me in my dress uniform behind my desk in the building where I had spent 16 years doing work that neither of us could fully discuss, and he said, I am proud of you too. And then he left. I sat in my office for a long time after he walked out. Not processing what had just happened. I am an analyst and processing is what I do, and I had been processing since I saw his name on the meeting scheduled 2 days earlier. But sitting in the specific, quiet way of someone who has arrived somewhere they had not been sure they would arrive. Marcus and I have a different relationship now. Not close in the way we were when we were children. Too much had happened and too many years had passed, and the specific distance of sibling relationships that develop along very different paths is not easily closed. But real. He calls. Not constantly. But regularly. He asks about my work in the way of someone who understands there are things I cannot say but who wants to communicate that he knows the work is real and that he respects it. I ask about his life. His children, he has 2, a son and a daughter who are 8 and 11 and who I have met 3 times and who have the specific, disarming directness of children who have not yet learned to manage what they say. His daughter asked me at Thanksgiving what I did in the army. I said, I help keep people safe. She thought about that. Then she said, like a superhero? I looked at Marcus across the table. He was smiling. I said, something like that. My father has been gone for 3 years. I go to Arlington twice a year. Not for ceremony, for presents. To stand at the grave of the man who saw me clearly when seeing me clearly was the thing I needed most. I stand there in whatever I am wearing and I talk to him. I know people have different relationships with that practice. I am not making a claim about what it accomplishes in any metaphysical sense. I talked to him because he was the person who understood me most completely, and because the habit of addressing the things I am thinking about to the person who best understood them does not fully go away when that person is no longer able to hear them. I told him about Marcus's visit. I stood at the grave and I told him what Marcus had said. I am proud of you too. I told my father that the apology had finally come. I told him that I had forgiven his son. I told him that his son was going to be all right. And then I stood at attention. And I saluted. The way daughters salute their fathers. The way soldiers honor the people who built them. Before you go, I want to say something about the work that cannot be spoken about. There are people in this country, in every country that values its freedom, who do work that cannot be discussed in public. Work whose success depends on its invisibility. Work that protects people who will never know they were protected, and that is performed by people who will never be publicly acknowledged for performing it. They serve anyway. Not for the acknowledgement. For the outcome. My father understood this. He understood it about his own service, and he understood it about mine, even though mine operated in a context he could not fully see. He told Marcus that what I did was the most important work in the army, even if nobody could ever know what it was. He was right. And I will spend the rest of my career honoring the specific, invisible truth of what he understood about service. The work that cannot be spoken about is still work. The people who do it still serve. And the ones who love them, who see them clearly even when they cannot see everything, those people are the reason the doing of it is possible. My father was that person for me. I carry him every day. In the work. In the uniform. In the specific, quiet pride of someone who knows what she has done even when the world does not. Drop the word Arlington in the comments if this story reached something real in you. Arlington for my father. Arlington for every soldier who earned that ground. Arlington for the people who stand at those graves and say the things that needed to be said. And if you are new here, subscribe. Every single day I share a new story about family, about service, about the invisible work and the people who do it. I will see you in the next one. Kayla's Dark Truth.